At this point in the Arborist journey, we've talked about planning in Arborist with biome mask, with the quick plant tool. So what if you've got a tree that's not in Arborist that you want to use? Like we do. We've got this live oak that we talked about. As of the making of this video, we currently cannot import trees into Arborist. There is a little bit of work going on, and hopefully at some point that will become an option. But right now it's not. So we have to go into Unity and plant these trees. Anything we put in Arborist will not show up in Unity. These trees are not going to come with us. It's just an issue. I won't get into the technical details because honestly, I don't know them. That's something with the OPCD guys. But with performance and licensing and that kind of stuff, you can't take these trees into Unity. So how do we know where they are, which is important? If we want to plant in Unity, we need to know what we've planted in Arborist, or if we've another good use for this tool is if we've got a tree that we've planted in Arborist and we wanted to vert paint a little dirt around the bottom of that tree to get rid of the grass. We need to know where that tree is. So the guys came up with something called Unity Helper script, and that helps bring in the location of the biome mask, the vegetation mask, the vegetation lines, all come in as an outline, shows you where they are. All of the items come in as little dots that are relative or pretty close. They're supposed to be exact, but they're usually pretty close to the size of the trunk of the tree. So it gives you a location. So to be able to use that in Unity, we've got to tell Unity where all that stuff is. And we do that in Arborist by going to our little hamburger drop-down menu. We're going to scroll down to Export Vegetation. This is going to create Arborist Helper to use in the Unity editor. We're going to hit yes. That creates a new file in your course folder. Innisbrook Island, our course folder, our Arborist data. It creates a new file called Arborist Pawn Positions. And this is going to have all of your pawn positions. When it talks about pawn positions, that's trees, rocks, grass, whatever you've got in here, it's going to show up. I say grass. I'm not totally sure on grass. I know it brings all the tree locations in. So we're going to minimize that. We're going to minimize that. And now we're in Unity. So to get this stuff to come in Unity, we're going to use a tool, which is a script. Let me back up for a second and let's make sure you've got this tool. This tool comes into the current base project updated. So the current Unity Helper tool is in the current base project. That may not always be the case. So where do you find the base project? Where do you find the Arborist files to download? Where do you find the Unity editor, Unity Helper editor in the download drive? So when we go to the download drive and we look at a couple of things, if we look at the base project, the date on the current base project is September 27th. It was updated. So if we go back to our Arborist folder, we can see our Arborist launcher was last updated June 22nd. The date today is October 31st. I won't say when because they don't like people asking when it's going to be released, but there is a new Arborist file that is currently being worked on. I'll say that. And so what we would want to know is the Unity Helper. Is the Unity Helper up to date? Well, it was created back in August. The base project was in September. So the current Unity Helper is in the current base project. If they make an update and something changes with the Unity Helper package, then you would need to download this and bring it into Unity. and you would bring it in just like any other asset. You would go asset, import package, custom package, and then you would find where you downloaded that Unity helper. All right, so enough of that. Let's actually get into Unity helper. So under tools, we're going to go down, and it's not, don't get caught up with Unity helper. The first time I looked for this, I was like, that's not there. Arborist show vegetation positions is the tool that we're wanting to get. It's going to pop up. We've got to make sure that we select the correct course folder, and we're going to do that. Let's back up. All right, so OPCD projects. My main folder that's got all of my Innisbrook stuff in it is here, and that contains my course build folder. So this is when I built the course in Unity, it created this file. What we want to select when we're selecting, looking for the Arborist Helper stuff, is not the GSP file, not your course file. It's the folder that contains the course file. Okay, very important. So we're going to select that folder. Then you're going to load your Arborist data. That loads all of those biome mask, all of the pawn positions of all of the trees. And then we can select different things that we want to look at. So if we only want to look at the biome mask, where they are, we're going to check that. If we want to look at all of them, we can show all. We can render. And every one of our biome masks are going to be outlined. Shows us exactly where they are. All right. If we want to choose a specific one, if we only want to look at this oak and get rid of all of this other stuff so it's not showing up, we can go here, oak tree right, and it's only going to show that one. If we want to look at individual items within this biome mask, we want to show vegetation item spawn locations. Okay. And then we want to make sure we've got the right thing selected. So we're looking at this mask. We're looking at that biome. That's correct. And we want to look at, let's say, the tall oak. And you can see those little green dots. They only render out to a certain distance. So if I go away, they start to disappear. So as we get closer, that is everywhere that I've got a tall oak. Yeah, tall oak. All right. Then if we wanted to look, so what I want to do here, let's do this real quick. So I want to look at all of the items, and this is a little bit of a performance drain, so you may get a little stutter when you move around. But that is all of the items that are in this biome mask. And I was right, you can. So that's just the grass. What I wish you could do, and I don't think you can, I think you can only select one at a time or show all. I don't think you can do multiple. Yeah, no. So I would love, and maybe I'll talk to All Arms about this, but I would love to be able to show just the trees and eliminate that grass, because I don't really care where the grass is. But if I hit show all, I can't really tell what's a tree and what's a grass. So that's, you got to deal with a few things. And right now, I've already let him know this. If you look at the forest beach, the forest beach is not that big. So this size is off on that. I'm not too worried about that. But so let's go back to show all. That'll give us at least an idea. And we're going to go in here and we're going to put out a couple of these live oaks. And the reason I've got these spawn locations up is I would like to put it where there's not another tree, if I can. That's going to be a little tough, but that would be ideal if we can do it. So let's find my, let's see, I think it's under live oak. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I've already got my prefabs made, so I can take this live oak and drag it out here. That's not the one I like. I think it's the 3. Let's go down a little. I think it's this one. And yeah. That's a little big. Let's delete that one. Let's try the 4. A little big too. We may have to adjust these. I thought I had them prefab set. Let's go. If you're not familiar, you can make a prefab by dragging this over. We'll change this name. Underscore prefab. We can drag this over. And now it should plant my adjusted size. There we go. So let's put that kind of right here on the edge. Let's rotate it a little. And then let's put one more. Just doing this kind of playing around. Man, that is still huge. I don't think I want it that big. Let's make it a little smaller. Really, all I'm trying to do with these is to kind of get a filler and get that moss to show up. So I don't want crazy stuff. And this is the hard part. Going back and forth between Unity and Arborist, not being able to see the Arborist trees. I would say right now that's probably the biggest downfall with Arborist is not being able to see everything in here. All right, so let's go. We like that one. Let's go maybe one more right here. There. I still think these are way too big, but I'm going to have to go in and look and see. Let's drag that in a little, that in a little. All right, so that'll be good. So we've got 2 of them in there we can play with. We'll go back into Arborist here in a second. So over here, remember, this is where we were going to talk about trying to do a little vert painting. So to show the quick plant items, we want to show persistent. So let's get rid of our biome mask. Let's show persistent. We don't need a mask, but we do need a biome. And remember, this was in quick plant. So we should, let's see if I've got the right thing clicked. No, that's not it. Well, let me pause for just a second. Okay, that was the problem. I had the vegetation item. You've got to click I had show all. You've got to click the item. So when we click that and then we click render, now the item shows up. So that was one of them there. So let's say, and you really want to get up above it because as you can see, when I get here, it's actually not right there. So when I'm vert painting, I try to do it from straight above, and that way you get exactly where that item is. And make sure it's not skewed. All right, so if we're right there, let's go down a little bit. And I'm not going to vert paint because I really don't want to right here, but this would be it. You would go into your vert painting or your mesh and vert paint around it. And then that would come back in. I guess I need to show you. Let me pause real quick, make this video a little shorter. Okay, so we've vert painted a little bit around the base of that tree. We've added a couple of trees into our biome area. And we want to see what this looks like in Arborist. So we've got to rebuild the course. So anything we do in Unity to get it back into Arborist, we've got to rebuild the course. So I'm going to close out my helper, GSP, and build course. And I'm going to pause while I do this. I'll get it back into Arborist and I'll come back. All right, we're back. I closed out Arborist. I rebuilt my course file in Unity, and then I opened Arborist back up, and it brought everything back in. So this is where we vert painted a little bit around the base of that tree. You can see how that did show up good. And then this is where we put those two live oaks, and it really turned out good. You know, I was worried about them being too big, but the scale ended up really good. I probably didn't have to reduce them as much as I did. That's kind of the top of it right there. But like I said, really all I'm trying to do with these is get a blend and get some of that hanging moss and kind of fill in that biome a little bit. And I really like how that's turning out. Let's look at it from this side over here. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of space out a few of these throughout this these biomes and get the look I want, and then I'll kind of use this and this tree on a lot of my planning. You can see, let me get out here real quick. I hadn't finished this hole. Number one, I try to do them kind of hole by hole once I start with quick planting. And I went ahead and put out a couple of the tall oaks here. I'll put out, I'll end up putting the live oak here and here because that's what's on that corner. There's one right here next to this one. And while I'm doing this, I'm constantly watching my little frame rate and making sure that I keep it under control. That's going to wrap up the Unity Helper video. We've got a couple of more videos in this series, and we're going to have the Arborist wrapped up for you guys.